Joe Smar is so awesome, man. It's so fun for me to be able to see God work in such amazing ways in the families within the Greater Trinity Ministries. One of the things that I think is really important is for us to be able to remember that it's not just about us. I grew up, a lot of you know this, I grew up in Oklahoma, right? But I grew up in a very academic home. So I have this mix of pseudo country with, everybody in my family has at least a master's degree. And so I grew up in this weird mix of high education and hunting and fishing and playing football and sports. It was a weird collision of lives. So I hang out with my football buddies, loved it, great being with them. And then I go home and I have a mom that's a, child and adolescent psychology professor, teacher, and she's always really into precision of words. So I have memories. I have memories of going home, being really frustrated. In fact, one clear one in my mind, I remember one night we had lost a football game. I got home, I was sitting in the chair and I was really mad. Okay, so I'm think 17-year-old kid fighting with his girlfriend, not getting along, walk in the house really frustrated. Your mom was a professional counselor, which was highly annoying as a teenager. And I sat down in the chair and my mom comes down, sits in front of me and she says to me, Michael, I want you to wrap words around it. Oh, dumb. What she meant by wrap words around it was be very precise with what you mean. High self-awareness and precision of language, linguistic precision was important in our home. Say what you mean, say it clearly. And so just getting really mad or yelling, that kind of stuff, the way this would go, even as a little kid, my mom would say things like this. If I just got really mad or I'd throw a fit, she'd say, go to your room until you're ready to communicate. Right, communicate. Now, my room wasn't like kids' rooms today. Kids' rooms today, they've got their own Xbox and TV and game stations. Sending them to their room is like sending them to Disneyland, right? No, not me, not at home. We go to my room and I had to wait. There was nothing to do in there. It was totally boring. And then I had to wait so I could calm down and I had to think through what I was going to say and how I was going to say it because linguistic precision was so incredibly important in my home. Fast forward years later. A couple of months ago, I was passionately sharing some of my ideas on a topic in our greater culture. And I kind of soapboxed and I was talking with some of my staff about this. And I was going, in our culture, it's interesting how there are some people that are born with more advantages than others. Even the ability to speak English is an advantage in America that others don't necessarily have. And when you don't have those advantages, you're not as set up as well to succeed. When people have, and I lost the word. Have you ever had that happen? Right in the middle of a conversation and you're looking for that precise word to share and it's gone. And then you kind of stutter around and other people kind of start helping you out. And I remember sitting in this meeting and they were kind of waiting for me to share it. I'm going, that when people have advantages, when they have better things in life offered to them just because of the family they're born into. What's that called? And then people started throwing out words. One person goes, benefits, when somebody has better benefits in life. And I go, well, that's kind of right, but that's not the word I'm looking for. And then somebody else in the meeting I was in, they threw out the word advantages, when somebody has advantages. And I'm going, no. And then somebody else goes, when they're born lucky. And I was like, well, that's kind of true, but that's not exactly what I'm talking about either. By the time we had searched for this word that I had lost, right in the middle of the conversation, lost on the tip of my tongue, I didn't even remember what I was talking about. The whole thing fell apart. Driving down the road, a few hours later, I'm just driving, thinking about something else, and all of a sudden, privilege. When somebody's born with privilege, oh, that's right. I can't stand how our culture has hijacked this for political propaganda, but it's a really true thing. And privilege, I was so frustrated. You ever had that happen? Right in the middle of a joke, right in the middle of a conversation, right at that moment, you're looking for the right word, and you can't find it. And everybody's desperately working to rescue you, and they're not getting it right. As you know, I like to read the dead authors. They're my favorites. That's probably because of the home I grew up in. I was immersed in dead authors, always dead authors. Reading through dead authors. Kierkegaard, Aquinas, different guys. That's the home I got to grow up in. And I've been reading a lot lately through some of these dead authors. And it's interesting because this searching for the right thing is kind of the definition of the human condition. I mean, we're constantly hunting for that right thing to complete us. And this begins really, really young. We're looking for the right thing to make us whole and complete us. And so what people do is they try to throw out things to help us out. They'll throw out sensual stuff. They'll throw out pleasure. Man, come with me, let's party. Starts in high school, right? Let's go party, let's do something. I mean, even marketing in our day and age is built on this. I mean, it's there to convince you that they have the answer to whatever is missing inside of you. I mean, just look at like beer commercials. I mean, it's so funny to me, right? The train comes roaring through, ice covers everything, and this really lonely guy is all of a sudden holding a beer can and all the girls are running towards him because that's really what happens. I mean, come on, that's not true at all. We know that's not, that doesn't happen. Another one of my favorites is when people will go, and the shampoo commercials, I watch these, and if you buy this shampoo, it's going to give you like awesome Fabio locks. And it's just not true. I mean, all the bald people here know. It's true. You can't put anything on your head. It's not going to make it grow. But even marketing, everything is working desperately to try to convince you that that hole that you have in your heart, they can answer. And the problem with the human condition is over and over and over again, it's proven to leave you wanting. This isn't new. I mean, this human condition searching for that right thing that's off, like trying to find the right word when you can't say it. It's there, you're telling a story and you forget the word. That searching is baked into our DNA. I love the way Thomas Aquinas, he says it really well. He says he gives it 4 primary categories. We look in wealth, pleasure, power, and honor. Wealth, pleasure, power, and honor. These are the 4 areas where we constantly try them on, like to see if it fits and if it feels good. Wealth. I mean, here's the funny thing about wealth. The more that you get, as you attain more and gain more power, you realize it doesn't satisfy. I was just sitting down a couple of months ago with a very wealthy independent business owner. I mean, he had kind of taken off, built one shop, it went really well, so he's starting a second shop, it went really well, so he's getting ready to start a third one, and then looking into franchising his idea, starting to do really, really well. I sat on the back porch of his house, he invited me over. And as I walk into his house, past his brand new Escalade he bought for his wife and his super souped up, Mustang GT, whatever, with turbo, all this extra stuff, the best of the best that you can get your hands on, past the motorcycle, past all this stuff, into his house, all the way through, into the backyard. We're sitting there in his backyard, and he says to me, it's really funny, every time I conquer a new hill, it only feels good for a couple of weeks. And then I conquer a new hill, and it only feels good for a couple of weeks. And then I conquer a new hill and it only feels good for a couple of weeks. And then he says to me, that sports car? You don't even want to know how much I put into it. And I haven't driven it in 6 months. It was only fun for a while. And then he says to me as we're sitting on the back porch, he goes, I want to find something that actually satisfies. We look in wealth. We look in pleasure. We look in power, we look in honor, we look in each and every one of these camps, constantly searching for this thing to put on that's going to make us feel whole and complete. And over and over and over again, as the world offers us these things, it's like not having the right word in a conversation. We can tell it's off. It's off. Kierkegaard says it really well. He says, a man becomes holy and he becomes of one thing. When the mind is finally stilled from other weaker draws, that one thing is pleasing God. That's an interesting thought to me with Kierkegaard. Because here's what happens as we move through life, and in lots of conversations with people, undergrad, grad school, not just the education side, but even in working with people interpersonally in counseling sessions. What happens is we become ever more frantic in the searching for feeling complete. We work harder. We try on more things. I mean, I saw this with young adults when I was working with young adults and counseling with adults. They need more. They're trying on new things. We become more frantic over and over again, searching and searching and searching. And Kierkegaard says, a holy man is the person that finally has a mind that's stilled. but stilled. It finally is at peace. How great would it be to have a mind and heart that are at peace? I am fully convinced of this, that your satisfaction in Christ is your greatest witness. Your satisfaction in Christ is your greatest witness. Your satisfaction in Christ is your greatest witness. Now, here's the thing that's interesting. We live in a great time for Christianity. We really do. This is such an amazing time in history to be a Christian. I mean, the whole quantum mechanics, I don't know how many nerdy people we have out there. I grew up nerdy, immersed in this stuff, so I still find it really fun. I like to read philosophy books. I mean, my accountability partner is a philosophy professor, PhD from Stanford. I mean, I've grown up. I love this world. We love to get together and debate ideas. It's an awesome time in history to be a Christian. From quantum mechanics to some of the best thinkers that are out there. I love this. William Lane Craig. Dr. Craig is a brilliant guy. I love even Notre Dame, Alvin Plantinga, one of the most brilliant philosophers alive today. Not just that, the head of the Genome Project has now become a professing Christian, arguably the most intelligent biologist on the planet. This is an awesome time in history to be a Christian. The concept of an unmoved mover and the necessity of it is so incredible. The moral argument, the cosmological argument for God. I mean, these things are gaining ground at such rapid rate. It is an awesome time in history to be a Christian and to defend God. But with apologetics in mind, getting into a debate with somebody that doesn't necessarily win their heart. It doesn't. When I was finishing my undergraduate, I was working part-time in a gym. So I did, a lot of you know this, I did exercise science, and then I did philosophy and religion, and then later I did, of course, graduate school. And in between, finished exercise science, and I was now studying philosophy, then I was sitting in a class going through the arguments for God, right? And so I'm all prepared. I mean, I'm in a classroom learning from some great thinkers how to defend the faith. And then those, in the evenings, I would go down to the YMCA and I would train and work out with people there. And it was awesome. So, I mean, my gun is getting loaded as I'm at school with what to say, how to draw people in, how to debate, how to win arguments. I mean, I'm getting this figured out. Then I go down to the gym and I get in these hot debates with people and I would destroy them. And I led no one to Christ. No one. There was one guy in particular, he claimed to be a staunch atheist. He's probably agnostic, as I was talking with him. And I loved going down and talking with him. And so we go through, I mean, he was really into the Four Horsemen of Atheism, so he's reading through a lot of that stuff. And I'm going through my stuff. So we go down, it was just like Collision of the Titans. And we'd stand in the weight room and just debate ideas. I feel really bad for everybody else that was there now. But there was one night I came prepared. And we got really hot, and I just started working it back. And I finally got to the end, and he got really mad at me, and he stormed out of the gym. This is a true story, and I never saw him again. I mean, like, I won the debate and lost the person. And as I've gotten older, I've realized something really powerful. Our greatest witness isn't just winning debates. It's not. Our greatest witness is that when you really find Christ, I'm not talking about the person that goes on a youth camp, tries out youth camp, kind of enjoys it, it's fun when they're a kid, but they're not really committed to Christ. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about the person whose parents made them go to church, but they never really gave their heart to Christ. I'm talking about those individuals who have really, truly embraced the ways and nature and truth of Jesus Christ. And those people that have done this have found this peace. The mind and the heart are stilled. Just a few months ago, I was with a dying individual. And he really was a passionate follower of Christ. And we did communion, the family's there, we're all praying together. And I asked him, I said, "You okay?" And as he was talking about his faith in Christ, how it had given him peace, there is so much. It wasn't about the debates in that moment, but I was able to see the function of faith. what did faith do to that family? It brought such transcendent peace into that room. Now, here's the beautiful thing in the room, in the conversation. If none of this is true, what did they lose? They still gained tons of peace and a much better life by fully believing and embracing the ways of Christ and exploring it. And if none of it is true, at least he ended with peace. And as I'm listening to the family think this through and talk about it out loud, it hits me. Our greatest witness, yes, I love the debates. Yes, I love reading Planning. Yes, I love William and Craig, Kierkegaard, Thomas Aquinas, all these wonderful authors and thinkers and brilliant people that are out there. But the truth is, your greatest witness is your satisfaction in Christ. Oh, our country. I love our country right now, right? We are so unbelievably divided. I mean, we have people that absolutely felt like they could not vote for abortion. And so they voted for somebody that they don't like. And I ran into other people who know or have wonderful families, immigrants that are really wrestling through how to handle life, and they love those people and they really stand for them, and so they voted for somebody that they didn't like. I want to be really clear, there was no good option. And we all know this. And so I posted a little something on Facebook. I mean, nothing politically charged, just posted a little something on Facebook. And I got a direct message from somebody just kind of really struggling. And so I replied back and I just said this: my heart is at peace because I truly trust Christ. And he writes me back this: I wish I could be there too. My greatest witness is my satisfaction in Christ. And as we went back and forth, it was great. He ended up just sending me a message. He's going to pull back, and he's like, you know what? Because he claims to be a Christian. He goes, at some point, I have to choose to trust, because not knowing and having no control is destroying me internally. Brilliant guy in our community. Your greatest witness is your satisfaction in Christ. All right, with this in mind, I want to go to the text today. And we're not going to be in here but about 10 minutes. And we're going to be in Matthew 25, 1, verse 1 through 13. Will be our text. All right, now as I get into this, after all those years of working with young adults, this is the parable of the virgins, and every junior high giggled. The parable of the virgins, right? So Matthew 25, 1 through 13, there's such powerful historical truth in this. Then the kingdom of heaven, this is starting in verse 1, Matthew 25, verse 1. Then the kingdom of heaven will be like 10 virgins who took their lamps and went to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish. Somebody say foolish. 5 of them were wise. Somebody say wise. For when the foolish took their lamps, they took no oil with them, but the wise took flasks of oil with their lamps. As the bridegroom was delayed, they all became drowsy and slept. But at midnight there was a cry, here is the bridegroom. Come out to meet him. And all those virgins rose and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said to the wise, give us some of your oil, for our lamps are going out. But the wise answered, saying, since there will not be enough for us and for you, go rather to the dealers and buy for yourselves. Verse 10. And while they were going to buy, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went in with him to the marriage feast, and the door was shut. Verse 11, afterward, the other virgins came also, saying, Lord, Lord, open to us. But he answered, truly I say to you, I do not know you. Watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour. All right, there's a couple of historical things that need to be explained to get this. Now, this story would have been clearly understood to those people in that day and age at that time, because this is how marriage worked in ancient Jewish culture during the Roman era and prior to that. If you were a bride and you were engaged to be married, your husband-to-be would literally go, and I'm simplifying this, there's more to it than this, but he would go and he would build your future life. He would make it. oftentimes even making a home. So you would wait, the woman would wait with her family while the husband would go and construct a house, build a life, whatever it might be, right? Farmers, it was a very agrarian culture, and he would prepare for his wife. Then on an evening, the evening of the marriage feast, when they were supposed to become united, in that evening, the groom with the groomsmen would come to this lady in waiting at her house. So she would light the lamps with the bridesmaids. They would hang outside at night at her home, waiting for the husband to come and rescue her. The husband would show up at night. There would be this massive party. They would have a wedding in the woman's home, in her home. He would rescue her, take her to her new life, and they would begin a new life in this home that he had prepared. Now, the way this is worded, this is so beautiful, the text of this. And again, it's important when you read the Bible that you ask the historical, contextual, grammatical questions. Who is this written to? How would they have heard it? How did they know life? These people that heard this in that day and age, for a woman to be rescued by a man was like finding that perfect word. They were all waiting for it. The ladies in waiting looked at this. They were waiting for this thing that was going to give them the ability to start life in a brand new way. And the way this is worded is so powerful because the metaphor made clear is basically this. The bride in waiting, the followers of Jesus living on earth. Anytime you run into somebody that is aware that our world is imperfect, that is an incredible, awesome evidence that we are made for more than this world. I love the way C.S. Lewis says it. Lewis says that every hunger that we have, there is the potential for it to be fed. The potential. So if I am hungry for food, guess what? There's the potential for food. Even if it's kept from me and I starve to death, there is clearly the potential to eat. If I'm hungry to procreate, there's the potential to procreate. If there is a hunger for safety, security, hope, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, all of these needs, all of these desires, there is the potential for them to be answered. But Lewis, this brilliant professor, makes it abundantly clear. There is a hunger in the human heart that nothing on this planet can fill. When I was in Dallas working with young adults, one of the ladies there, she was finishing her PhD in anthropology, had literally traveled the world on digs with the University of Texas. And so I was asking her about this, and she said to me, she said, one of the key traits when we're doing a dig that lets us know, is this a human group that really has, is the evidence of a religion. And so I asked her, I said, is it true that people groups through history, I mean, this hunger for something more than this world, that it really is transcendent? And she said there are people that try to argue that it's not, but nobody's been able to do it. The truth is, every people group that we've discovered, once we search deep enough into the group, we find it is baked into our DNA to be hungry for the metaphysical. Which means there is a hunger in our heart that nothing in this world has been able to fulfill. And humanity searches for beyond it. How did we grow this hunger? The bride is waiting. The followers of Christ, the followers of Jesus living on earth. An awareness of this hunger inside of us. The groom is coming. Christ is coming to get us. This is the metaphor, that there is a longing, a hunger for us to be rescued, for things to be made right. And there is a Christ. Christ is coming to make that right, to give us, to make us whole, to put that precise word in our mouth, to complete our hearts. The third thing is this: there will be an amazing ceremony when the two come together. This is the rapture. The groom will rescue his bride and take her to their new home, which is heaven, right? So this whole metaphor has been played out through all the human history, or through the Jewish history. And then the next thing is this: there will be a banquet with all their friends and family present in the new home. Now this is really important, because what it's saying even to that Roman era culture is important for us to hear even today. In the next life, there is identity. It's not just energy moving to a new source and we're kind of absorbed into, some great energy thing in the future. The way this is worded implies that there is absolutely identity, and we will have real relationships in the life to come. I want to take this apart back through the text, and this is going to go fast. I want to pull out 2 sets of ideas. The first is this. Then the kingdom of heaven will be like 10 virgins who took their lamps and went to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish, 5 were wise. For when the foolish took their lamps, they took no oil with them. But the wise took the flasks of oil with their lamps. What is this about? Somebody say wise. Somebody say foolish. What does waiting well on Christ look like? What does waiting well on Christ look like? There are a couple of ideas I want to offer to you. The first one is this, that we can draw from the greater text, not just this narrative, but the greater narrative. When you get tired of waiting on God, when you get tired of waiting, don't give your heart to something of lesser value. Oh man, as a youth pastor and then a young adult pastor, this was huge. When you get tired of waiting, don't give your heart to something of lesser value. Here's a great example. When I was working with young adults, it was kind of fun. You'd have high school students. This is Dallas. Loved being down there. Loved working with them. Brilliant people. We had people in medical school that were in our young adult department. We had people that were working on PhDs in various degrees. It was a great group to get to work with. Anybody that implies that Christians are dumb, I've been around brilliant ones my whole life. We were down there in this group, and it was funny because you'd have young adults graduating, getting ready to go to college. And I would ask them, hey, in your future spouse, what are you looking for? And they'd have like this whole long line of thing. I want them to, love God. I want them to be honorable people. I want them to, manage their money well. All these things they were looking for in a spouse. Then they get into college, and as they get to their senior year of college, the list goes like this. Becomes a little bit shorter. Now what are you looking for? Well, I want them to love God, and I want them to, and they kind of lay it out. And then these people go to graduate school. And when they get into graduate school, start graduate school, that's fine. Then they get to the end of graduate school, and if they still weren't married, you'd ask them, hey, what are you looking for in a spouse? And now it's all of a sudden like the list shrinks even more. And then I had some young adults. Now, these are people that think that marriage is going to be the thing that's going to complete them. These are the people that think like finding that right word. They're the people that think that the right thing in their life that they're missing is a spouse. And right now, even in this room, people that aren't married don't believe us when we say that our spouses can't fully complete us. People that are newly married are learning that their spouses can't complete them. And all of us that have been married a longer time, we already know. Wait, I better be careful. And then you run into these people when they get to be 30, 31, 32, those that really believe that marriage was going to be the thing that would complete them. And then you'd ask them, hey, what are you looking for in a spouse? And they're like, all right, they're in. Pulse, that's all we need now. When you get tired of waiting, don't give your heart to something of lesser value. This also goes when you're in seasons of hardship. When you're going through seasons where life is really tough, when you lose a loved one, when you've lost your job, when things are falling apart. This is the season when people land in this place where they're just looking to feel better somehow. One of my best friends from high school, I played football with him, is going through an awful divorce. And I actually told him on the phone the other day, he called. Again, over the last couple of months we've been talking together. And this guy, man, if you can meet him, he's brilliant, graduate school, very successful. He's a big guy, bigger than I am, football player. He played college football. And he told me, he said, I was laying on my bed, curled up, like in the fetal position, just weeping. I feel like I'm losing everything. And I told him, I said, it feels right now like your ex can take your home, can take your kids, that your ex can take, maybe even ruin your job, I don't know. It feels like she can take everything. And I said this on the phone to him, I said, I want you to know, she can't take my love for you. And the dude lost it, just started weeping on the phone. And I've been encouraging him lately in this season of waiting where everything is really hard. Don't give your heart to foolish, stupid things. Don't go to strip clubs. Don't be frequenting bars and getting drunk. Don't be looking for somebody. Just don't give your life. Don't give your heart to things of lesser value in this season of hard waiting. Don't give your heart to things of lesser value in the season of hard waiting. Stay faithful. The second thing is this: keep your faith in the promises of God. I don't mean the word keep. Now, in our world, when we say love, when we say like, we usually mean it contextually. So when we say I love something, what we mean is I'm enjoying the circumstances that I'm in. When I use the word keep, I mean stay faithful independent of the circumstances that you're in. Keep your faith in the promises of God. The third thing is this: make sure the people speaking deepest into your life have a spiritually sound mind. Think of Job in the Old Testament. You don't have to turn there. We don't have time to go there. But think of Job in the Old Testament. His friends are all gathered around. His life has fallen apart. His loved ones have died. It feels like God is punishing him. And he has good friends and bad friends, mostly just bad friends in this case. And they gather around him and they basically say, you know what? Just curse God and die. Be done with this. You better make sure when you're going through hard seasons of waiting that you tune your ear to people that are wise. The next thing is this: be an encourager to others that are in waiting. Be an encourager to others that are in waiting. I'm going to invite Kristen up and we're going to be done in just a minute. When you read Matthew 25, 5 through 13, I'm going to read this to you. It says, as the bridegroom was delayed, they all became drowsy and slept. Who became drowsy and slept? Now listen, look at this really closely. As the bridegroom was delayed, they all became drowsy and slept. As the bridegroom was delayed, they all became drowsy and slept. It is not a sin. Man, I got to make this so abundantly clear. If you are in a season of spiritual struggle, you are not in sin. If you have lost a loved one and your heart is searching and you're crying out to God, if you're in the middle of a lost job and you're struggling, trying to find that right work, if you're in the middle of feeling abandoned, if you're in the middle, whatever it is, the difficulty, if you feel right now, listen to me clearly, if right now you feel like you are falling spiritually asleep, you are tired, you are worn out, I want you to know you are not in sin, because even the best of them, who grew tired? They all did. Not just the wise, not just the foolish, they all grew tired. They all grew tired. But in your spiritual sleepiness, don't become foolish. In your spiritual sleepiness, don't become foolish. But at midnight, there was a cry, here's the bridegroom, come out to meet him. That right word, that right thing that we want to complete us has come. That is functionally the promise of Christ in the means of Christianity. It is the thing that is created, built by God to complete, to make us whole. That thing that's off in you and doesn't feel right, like finding that right word, like seeking out for a right answer that doesn't feel complete, the injustice that you notice in the world around you and desire for things to be made right, that is the promise, that metaphysical promise of Christianity. But at midnight there was a cry, here's the bridegroom, come out to meet him. Then all those virgins rose and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said to the wise, give us some of your oil, for our lamps are going out. But the wise answered, saying, since there will not be enough for us and for you, go rather to the dealers and buy for yourselves. All right, I want to pause there for a moment. John Calvin, another dead guy, love the dead guys. Love the dead guys. I don't know if you've read his Institutes, but Calvin makes the case in this text that the oil is actually, the metaphor is your heart's desires. And some of you right now, you are literally giving your oil, your heart's desires, to things of lesser value, things that you know can't complete you. You're giving your heart's desires to things that you know can't complete you. I mean, think about how crazy, me too, how crazy we go at a Colts game. Colts, yay. Hopefully it's more than that, right? But when you're in that stadium and everybody's going nuts and they're roaring, it's so easy to be caught up in that. It's not that the Colts are bad, but you know the Colts don't have the power to complete your heart. But you give of your greater affection to things that you know can't complete you. And in this text, Calvin makes the case that in this text, what happens is these foolish bridesmaids, they give of their heart's desire till they really have nothing left. And then when the groom comes, they have no more of that heart's desire to give to him. In your waiting, don't become foolish. Verse 10, and while they were going to buy, the bridegroom came, and those were ready and went to him and to the marriage feast, but the door was shut. The implication from the text is there will come a day when the opportunity for decision comes to an end. Verse 11, afterward the other virgins came also, saying, Lord, Lord, open to us. But he answered, truly I say to you, I do not know you. Watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour. Thomas Aquinas says that humanity is desperately looking to find that right word, to be complete in wealth, power, pleasure, and honor. And wealth, power, pleasure, and honor. But Kierkegaard says a man becomes holy in this frantic searching of finding meaning and finding purpose, this frantic searching of trying things on, that a man becomes holy when he becomes of one thing. When the mind is finally stilled from other weaker draws, and that one thing is pleasing God, You are here in probably one of two places right now. You are either here in a season of hardship, whatever it might be, loss of a job, struggling with home stuff, I don't know. Or you may be here and for whatever reason, you're in a season where things are going really pretty well. If you're in a season of hardship, I want to ask this question. Are you giving your heart to things that you know can't satisfy you? Are you being foolish? And if you're in a season where things are going really fairly well, I want to tell you, the hard days are going to come. I promise. And when they do come, make sure to choose wisely. Invest in things that just might have the potential, listen to me clearly, that just might have the potential to make your heart be stilled and complete. And then the last question I have, last thing, kind of tied into this, is I want to encourage you to be an encourager. The world needs to see your satisfaction in Jesus. Don't grow quiet, but proclaim boldly, Jesus is enough. Do you know what the world needs to hear right now? It needs to hear that you are satisfied in Christ. Don't hide it, shine it. Jesus is enough. Your greatest witness is not winning debates, though debates are fun. Your greatest witness is your satisfaction in Christ. Your neighbors need to see your satisfaction in Jesus. Your coworkers need to see your satisfaction in Jesus. Your family members need to hear you talk and see your satisfaction in Jesus. They need to see you be the light of Christ. I want you to grab your decision card right now. We just want to thank you for watching the sermon online. If God is working in your heart, we would love to hear about it. You can go online, www.encountertrinity.com/nextstepscard. You can fill out information there. Let us know what God is doing in your heart. If you need help with anything, we would love to help. Counseling, we would love to do anything that we can to help you go to that next level spiritually. When you fill this out, it goes to one of our pastors. It is private, and we will take care of that information to the best of our ability. We love you, we care about you, and we want to see God do great things in your life. Have a great day.